Today's class will be a continuation of the Paratext training, going over some of the things that are basic or essential for new translators to know. As I mentioned, there are many other things Paratext can do, but we will be going over in this presentation some of the other essential things that you need to know in order to start using it. So in this presentation, we'll learn about saving your work, doing a send-receive, searching for text, inserting footnotes, inserting glossary items or key terms, Greek and Hebrew tools, adding users to a project, printing your text. Let's look first at saving your work. Of course, after you have done some translation, you'll want to make sure that it is saved in Paratext. To save your work, hit Menu, Save All, or else you can click on the Save All icon on the toolbar. We have set up your Paratext to automatically save your work whenever you change chapters or books. And your work is also saved whenever you do a send-receive. So that is good to do fairly often, at least once per day. When you do a send-receive, this saves the work you have done in Paratext on your computer to a site on the internet. So it is backing up your work. That means that even if someone were to steal your computer, you will not have lost your work in Paratext. It also makes the changes you made on one computer in the project available to other computers in the project. So to do a send-receive, you hit Menu, Send-Receive Projects. Click on Internet Server. Make sure first that you are connected to the internet. Paratext remembers this setting, so it's usually on by default from the last time you did a send-receive. Next, you scroll down the list and put a check mark by the projects you want to send-receive. Once again, you only have to do this once. Paratext will then remember the choices you have made. Then you hit Send-Receive. Now, a quick way to do a send-receive is by clicking on the send-receive icon on the toolbar. So how do you do send-receive if you have multiple computers in a project? Well, first do a send-receive on the computer where you've made some changes in your text. This will send the changes that you have made. Then do a send-receive on the other computers. They will then receive the changes that you sent. When you do a send-receive, Paratext keeps track of everything so that all computers in a project are properly synchronized. But in order to avoid project conflicts, it's better to not work on the same verse at the same time on different computers. Otherwise, that will create a warning or conflict error. Paratext won't know which work done on that verse is correct. On the next slides, we're going to talk about using Paratext to search for text. Paratext can search for text in your translation project, in any other version, in any language, and in any of the translation reference materials. So if you want to know if you used a specific word before, or if another version has used, for instance, a key term previously, you think it did, but you can't quite remember, you can easily do a search in that version or tool to see. So to search for text, you put your cursor in the project which you would like to search. That makes it the active project. You then hit Menu, Edit, Find, or Control F, and a new window appears like the one below. type in the text you want to search for, and then hit the Find button. Let's try searching again a slightly different way. Put your cursor in the project you want to search, as you did before, but this time select a word in advance. You can do that by double-clicking on it. Now when you hit Menu, Edit, Find, or Control F, you don't have to type in the text. It has automatically placed that selected word in the Find box. And then you hit the Find button. When you hit Find, it will open a new window with a list of places where that word occurs in that text. You can now double-click on any reference to go to that spot. You can also hold down the Alt key and press the down arrow or up arrow to quickly go through the list. I'll demonstrate this for you on the next slide. So let's say I want to search in the ESV version. I'll click on it. And in verse 27, I want to find the word temple. I will hit Menu, Edit, Find. And it brings up that word temple. I can hit the Find button, and a new window appears with 22 occurrences of the word temple in the book of Luke. Or for instance, in my translation, if I want to find on this word, and I select it first and hit Control F, it now brings up the box, and I can hit the Find button. And there are 3 places where that word occurs. And if I double click on them, it goes to those places. Instead of double clicking, I can also use the Alt key with an arrow, and I will do Alt arrow up, Alt arrow up, Alt arrow down, and it automatically goes to those locations in my text. Now let's try a search again, but this time we will check the box Show in Context. And then when we click on the Find button, it shows us a window with that word in its context. So it's not just the individual word that we are seeing, but the word surrounded by its context in that verse. So that can be very helpful as well when doing searches. When you do a search in Paratext, you can search just the current book by clicking on Current Book. Or you can choose the books that you want to search by clicking the Choose button. That will then open a new window where you can select individual books, or you can hit New Testament books, Old Testament books, or all books in order to find the text that you're searching for in just the places that you want. I'm now going to demonstrate searching for text in specific places and showing the context. So if I do a Control F to bring up the search box, let's say I want to type in the word Sabbath, and instead of the current book of Luke, I'll choose books, and I'll choose the book of Acts. Hit OK, and now I'm going to find that Sabbath in Acts, and we see it occurs 9 times. Now let's say I want to show the context. If I do the Find again with Control F and select this Show Verse in Context button and hit Find, it now shows that word Sabbath in Acts in its context, and I can drag the window to make it bigger so that I can see that. So go ahead and pause this video and try that yourself on your computers. Do a search and search in specific places and according to context and not. Remember, you can highlight the word by double-clicking it before you open the Find box, and it will appear there, or you can type it in. So go ahead and pause the video and practice that yourself. The last thing I'll mention about searching for text is that you can search for any part of a word by selecting No Restriction. Or you can search just for the whole word by selecting Whole Word Only. To demonstrate this, I will double-click the word faith in the ESV version, hit Control F to do a find, set it for current book and no restriction, and hit the find button. And it comes up with 21 items where it has found the word faith. But if I hit my Alt arrow key to go to the next one, I see that in 941 it's not just faith, but faithless. 1228 then is faith, but 1242 is faithful. So if I do that search again, Control F, and this time select whole word only, instead of 21 items in the list, now there are just 13 items, and each of those is only the word faith. So now it's your turn. Go ahead and pause the video and practice doing a search using whole word only and no restriction, as I've just demonstrated. Now remember, Paratext remembers the last setting you used when doing a search. So when you're done doing these test searches, you might want to restore the various settings to their default. We'll be talking later in the course about supplementary helps that can help your readers understand the text. Often teams will put in footnotes to explain something to their target audience readers that was clear to the original readers of the Greek New Testament. To insert a footnote, you place your cursor where you want the footnote to go. Now, that's often at the end of a verse, but sometimes it can be right after a specific word. You hit Menu, Insert, Footnote, and that then puts a symbol into your text. Type a footnote in the box that appears below. Now, if you highlight some text before hitting Insert Footnote, then that text will appear in the footnote. Then type your footnote after that text. If you don't see the footnote pane in your project, you may have to hit View and then Show Footnotes. To delete a footnote, in case you put in one by mistake, using your mouse you can highlight the footnote mark in your text. Then you just hit the Delete button and it will disappear. So you can go ahead and practice that now. Take a few minutes and pause the video. Go to Revelation 1:1 and practice inserting a footnote there. And then delete it. Try it again and then delete it again. Many translation teams also include glossary items as another supplementary help to help their readers understand more fully the meaning of key terms. To insert a glossary item, you first hit Menu, Tools, Biblical Term Renderings. This opens a new window showing you the key terms found in that verse. You can double-click on a term in the English column. This will open a new window called Edit Renderings. To make a glossary entry, click on the tab labeled Glossary. In this window, first type a citation form, which is the word in your language that will be in the glossary. Next, type a definition, which is an explanation of that term. To see entries in your glossary, click the drop-down button for selecting a book. Scroll down to the bottom, past Revelation, and click on the book GLO for glossary. You can now see your glossary entries. The scriptures that we are translating were originally written in Hebrew and Greek. In Paratext, it is possible to see the original Greek and Hebrew in a text collection box. But unless you know Greek, that might not be so helpful. There's also an interlinear version with glosses in English, and this interlinear version can be more helpful if you don't know Greek so well. It can give you transliterations for how to pronounce the word, grammatical parts of speech of the Greek word, and a gloss in English. The interlinear version must be open in a separate window. Click the icon on the toolbar, Open Source Language Text. Now, for more advanced students of Greek and Hebrew, it's possible to open various Greek-English lexicons, for example, by right-clicking on a Greek word in the interlinear. That will bring up a variety of lexicons that give more information on that word. We'll be going over this more in the teaching on supplementary helps. Now let's talk about adding other users to your translation project. Sometimes you may need to add a user to your projects, and you must use the administrator computer to do this. For instance, in order to share your translation and back translation with a consultant, you first need to add them to both projects. Or someone, a translator in a related language, may want to see your back translation text, so you need to know how to add them to your back translation project. When you add another user to your project text, when you do a send receive, they can then receive the text for those projects. You will need their Paratext registration name in order to add them as a user. If they don't know their Paratext registration name, they can find it on their computer in Paratext by hitting Help, About, and then that shows their registration name so that you can add them. We'll show you how to do that in the next screens. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the Paratext training presentations, you won't remember how to do all the steps that I am teaching you, but you will have this PowerPoint as a reference to look back on later when you want to try and figure out how to do something. Or you can always search for help in Paratext. So to add users to a project, you would hit Menu, Project, Project Settings, and then User Permissions. Then you hit Add User button. Then you enter the Paratext registration name of the user to add. Then when you do a send receive, they will be able to receive your project. Next, beside the person you just added, hit Change Role. Select Consultant, or as appropriate, Observer, Translator, or Administrator. Then hit Assign Books, and usually hit All Books. When you have added a user to your project like this, when they do a send receive, they will then be able to receive your translation in that project. Someone will help your team with typesetting, so you can print an entire book once it has been consultant checked. But sometimes you may want to print out your text in order to share with others what you have done. For instance, if you've just translated part of a book. Or you may want to test your text and get feedback. There are two basic ways in Paratext to print a formatted copy of your text. The first is to hit Menu, Project, Export to RTF. You can then select the range of the chapters and verses that you want to print. You hit Save. You can then double-click this RTF file and it will open in Microsoft Word. You can then print the formatted copy from Word. The second way that you can print from Paratext allows you to create a formatted PDF with illustrations. To do this, you hit Menu, Export to Draft PDF, and this window will appear. You set the book and chapters that you want to print, the page size, usually A4, columns, 1 or 2 columns, the body font. In Nepal, teams are using Annapurna SIL. The size, usually 12, but perhaps 14. Line spacing, put that to single unless you want to do testing and write feedback between the lines. In that case, you would hit double. Put a check mark by justify paragraphs. And next you would hit the Advanced tab. On the Advanced tab, put a check mark by Mirror Layout. Include figures, and then hit OK. This will create a formatted PDF with illustrations, which you can then print. So here is an example of Luke 1 using Export to Draft PDF. And as you can see, it does the formatting very nicely with the book introduction, the text in 2 columns, the header at the top of the page and footnotes at the bottom, and an illustration with captions. It's not completely typeset, but it is looking very nice and can be used to distribute for sharing and for testing and feedback. As mentioned earlier, Paratext has many advanced features as well, so it's best to just always keep learning. And use printouts or this PowerPoint as a reference to remind you how to do things. If stuck in Paratext, hit Help and browse Help. Training videos are also available at these 2 websites. Or you can ask other translators who are working in related languages who might have started before you, and they should be able to provide you with help. Or at times there is support personnel for computers that can give you a hand. Although a new computer program with lots of different features might be overwhelming in the beginning, God has really blessed us in order to be able to have and use this translation software. And it really will help you to make both a translation more easily and a really good quality translation. So may the Lord bless you as you dive into the world of Paratext, and it will be exciting to one day see all of the scriptures in this program in your language. See you next time. If you're taking this training as part of a translation workshop, you'll see in the green box on the workshop schedule that we've just finished Paratext training. We went over saving, send receive, searching text, inserting footnotes, glossary items, Greek tools, adding users, and printing. So this now completes the introductory material that we need to understand before we can start looking at our procedure of how we are going to go about translating. In our next class, the box in red, we'll start in on the 10 steps of translation. In that class, we'll be going over Step 1, Exegesis, and an Introduction to Exegesis. One final thing, there are 2 PDF handouts for these 2 presentations on Paratext that include all the slides in these presentations. So if you do forget how to do something, you can refer back to those, and they should then remind you how you can do the various steps that we went over in these 2 presentations.